shaken. Like Noelle, some of Easton's most renowned Shiseido worshippers hadn't even bothered with makeup. They perched on sofas and settees, dabbing at their eyes with handkerchiefs, consoling one another. The guys, meanwhile, stood around with their hands in their pockets, looking skittish, as if their confidence had been somehow shaken. Maybe if Thomas Pearson was capable of dying, they weren't quite as invincible as they had once thought. Reality had just set in for these guys who normally walked around in a dream world, a world where they were completely untouchable. Could this be any more morbid? Kiran Hayes said, swinging her wine glass around a little too brazenly. This many people didn't turn up when the Pope died. It's like everyone has some sicko fascination just because he was a kid. Kiran tipped her wine glass toward her mouth and downed what was left in one gulp. An actual billboard model, she was the most beautiful person I had ever met in real life, and after knowing her for a month, I was starting to feel like she might also be the one most likely to end up in rehab. A few pieces of her dark hair had fallen out of her carefully twisted bun, and her green eyes were unfocused. Still, every guy in the room was checking her out when they thought no one was watching. I bet one of these blonde chignons walking around here is covering it for the rags, Noelle said stoically. A good prep school scandal is their wet dream. There was the Noelle I knew and feared. "Noelle!" Arianna scolded, her blue eyes piercing. Her own blonde hair was also back in a loose chignon. In her dark clothing, with her diamond earrings securely fastened in her ears, Arianna looked less wispy and more in charge than she ever had before. "What? No one heard me," Noelle said, smoothing her long dark hair behind one shoulder. "And I'll bet you my entire trust fund I'm right. Just wait. The Thomas Pearson tragedy will have a 4-page spread in Hampton's magazine next month." "I can't believe anyone would want to exploit his death," I said. "It's not like he's famous or something." "He was around here," Noelle said with a sigh. At that moment, Taylor Bell, who had been sniffling and quietly weeping all day, burst into another round of tears. Her dark blonde curls shook as she buried her cherubic face in a handkerchief. Arianna reached out and rubbed Taylor's arms. Taylor's display of emotion made me so uncomfortable I had to look away. She and the rest of these girls hadn't even liked Thomas. They had, in fact, hated him, warned me to stay away from him. And now, like everyone else, they were all completely shattered, as if Thomas had meant the world to them. Still, it wasn't like I should have been that surprised. Love him or hate him, Thomas had been a classmate. One of them. They had known him for years, so of course they would be shocked and freaked. I was just surprised at how freaked. My strained eyes fell on Missy Thurber, big nostrils, bigger attitude, leaning back against the tastefully papered wall in her chic black suit, her nose all red from crying. At her side, as always, was Lorna Gross, whispering in her ear, looking very somber. I suddenly wanted to hurl something at them from across the room. Where the hell did they get off pretending to mourn? Neither of them had ever spoken to Thomas in their lives. Between them and Taylor and Kiran's continued rantings, I was beginning to feel a bit claustrophobic. Then I saw Constance Talbot, my former roommate, making her way across the room toward me. The last time I had seen Constance, she had told me off with tears in her eyes for dating the guy of her dreams, Walt Whitaker. Walt Whitaker, who was here somewhere, chatting up a few members of the older generation, as usual. Whit and I were definitely no longer an item, not that we'd ever really been one, but I had no idea whether or not Constance knew this or not. I stood up straight as she stepped up to me, my whole body tense. Constance met my gaze, then threw her arms around me. "Reed, I am so sorry," she said over my shoulder. I was so surprised it took me a moment to respond. But then I hugged her back. Hard. In a million years, I never would have been able to predict